Hey. All right, howdy. Welcome to everyone for tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I've lifted that straight out of Dilly Dave's MC playbook and handbook. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today battling Malay's and Melbourne's heat to bring you episode 10 of the Vibe Union podcast. Before we begin, remember to hit that like, that subscribe button to keep us going. Thank you so much. If you're loving this, you're a fantastic human being. Before we roll into everything, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, and it's an ongoing struggle for self-determination in this country that we should all be a part of. With me here today, we have Mikado to my right.
What's up, guys? How we going? I was like, is it my turn to speak?
And to her right, we have Rhath.
Hello.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hello. Is it me you're looking for?
My name is Emkew, and I'm going to be taking over some of the hosting duties today. But ultimately, we're really just going to be having a good old flash. Chinwag.
Chinwag.
Good old chinwag.
Hell yeah.
Let's begin with the time-honored standard. Everyone asks this question. Mikado, if you could fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck, which would you rather fight?
All right, here's the thing. I feel like I could realistically fend off 100 duck-sized horses, right? But one horse-sized duck. Have you ever met a fucking duck? I'm sorry. They're aggressive. They're aggressive in their nature and their temperament. So I mean, yes, I would not want to go toe-to-toe with a horse-sized duck because I value my life, okay? So Mikado said it here first, 100 horse-sized ducks. No, but you know what? I've completely validated and legitimized myself here, and anyone who disagrees with me would be bloody crazy.
You also said 100 horse-sized ducks at the end, so you're willing to buy 100 horse-sized ducks.
Not only could she take on 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck, she would rather take on 100 horse-sized ducks. Heard it here first. Mikado is a badass motherfucker.
I'm just thinking that both of them have exceptionally hard weapons of choice. They've got the horses have little stones on their feet called hooves. But once
granite boulders.
Yeah, well, at the moment they're granite boulders on their feet, but you can string those down. They're like a pebble.
Everywhere that you went, like you just sat down on your chair, like. But that's like you just had one that like came out from your ass. You had these like two metal plates on your cheeks, and you just.
Have you seen Silicon Valley?
I mean, it's not far removed.
No, in that TV show, legit, there's a character. He invents the pants chair, and he busts it out in a lot of situations, and you're just like, I don't like this guy, but damn, that's a good invention.
But I think the social scrutiny would not be worth
on PTV though.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I like that. I like holding on the handle on the tram. It feels very Melbourne. It feels very authentic.
And you do that thing where you're like, look at how sturdy I am, and you try and counter sway. The whole tram is moving, and you're just like, I'm solid as a rock. And when you get home, you're just like seizing up.
You feel like your muscles spasm. You're like,
it was worth it.
Literally. But I mean, I love doing this thing like when I'm standing on the train, like I'll be like not holding on to anything, and I'll like sort of shift my body weight to like move with the tram, and I feel like I'm fucking like subway surfing or something.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, wow, no one's ever had more balance than me, and then I probably would immediately fall over because I mean, if anyone knows me like personally in real life, I'm real clumsy. As a human being, coordination is not one of my strengths. One of my strengths, songwriting, yes, rapping, excellent, singing, fantastic, coordination. If natural selection would have picked me by now if I didn't have glasses, that's all I'm going to say.
Amazing. All right, over to you. Would you rather have eyebrows that move uncontrollably all over your face every time you shave them, they grow back, they keep doing their thing, or a singular personal rain cloud that follows you everywhere, indoors, outdoors, just a little thing, drizzling, raining on you, not really mood dependent, it just does its own thing?
I can only imagine. No, it would just destroy all of your electronics and stuff. You'd get everything wet.
Yep.
And sleeping in a puddle every night would just be a nightmare. But I'm also really vain, and I don't think I could deal with random eyebrows. So immediately shave straight back.
They grow back at a natural rate, but like otherwise you're that guy who doesn't have eyebrows and then soon has stubble moving around his head.
I feel like you can work your way around it. I feel like you can tattoo on some eyebrows in this area, always have a straight razor ready to go, and just
You got Nair in the bag as a to go.
Yeah.
That's best. Well, okay.
I like that. Yep.
Like if you want to know my answer to this question, not that anyone asked me, but I'm going to give it to you.
You know what? I'm asking you, Mikado. Same question.
Well, my answer, 100 huck-sized doses. Wow, that was awful. What was I going to say? Personal rain cloud, because, I mean, at any given moment, you were music video ready, all right? Imagine the content, because you'd be like,
Yep. I like that.
So, I mean, for me, like, you know, in terms of my brand, like, I really feel like Mikado would benefit with, like, random rain pouring, and then I could do the whole, like, you know, yeah, I'm just a bachelor looking for a partner. Genuine. I love you, baby.
And that's worth sleeping in soggy sheets every night.
I was going to say something.
Yeah, no, I teed up something, but I wasn't sure.
It's okay. I wasn't quite going to hit it off for you, but what I will say, look, if a woman's sheets are soggy, that's not always bad. Random sogginess, though, like just your elbow patch or just a shoulder or something.
I'm picturing it the head. I picture if it's kind of hovering over me, I guess it'll be centered around
like over
there.
like that's the center of gravity.
Like just a wet pillow every night. I don't know.
It wouldn't be pleasant either way, but I do definitely appreciate that your first reaction was, what about my electronics?
Yeah, well,
what happens to my gadgets?
It's my entire life. I can easily, I could easily just not go outside. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Which I did all year round anyway, and I found out I'm very highly suited to that lifestyle.
Recluse.
Yeah, 100%. I can edit this shit out. I can film all my YouTube content and then just edit my eyebrows back on.
Learns advanced CGI. Yeah, I pay that. You know what? Yeah, you well answered.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I don't think I could get past the eyebrow stubble 100%. Like, to be fair, my eyebrows already grow at an exponential rate. I don't really feel like I need to expedite that process and have the added stress of not knowing where the fuck it's gonna come up, because I just imagine getting like one boom, boom, like, you know, like just random spots.
Oh, they're like caterpillars. They just sort of move around your face at will.
Like a Picasso, but like, you know, in motion. Yeah. Like, you know, my ear just like gradually like rotates to the top of my head.
Amazing.
Come on, Vogue. That's too much.
So now that we know how we're all doing, what do we want to talk about today?
Well, I presented to the table today ways of knowing. I was a bit far back. I was like, lean back. This one's for the Jeeps. Anyway. Stupid. The point that I wanted to bring across to the table today is when you realize that you got to legitimize yourself as an artist, or, you know, professional steps that you might want to put in place, or, you know, when you know it's time, like, you know, my music, my content's good enough, the things that I'm doing are you know, being well received, you know, it's of a high quality, high caliber, you know, I feel good about it. All right, what are we going to do next? Like, if you're serious about this, how are we going to make it happen? But yeah, anyone got some initial thoughts on the topic?
Well, you're about to head into a release. As am I, actually, yes. But
release town, baby.
Yeah, so is this something that you've been kind of struggling with recently that you found a way out of, or a way to legitimize yourself in your own mind?
Well, 100%. I think, well, for me, it was a bit of a journey, like, I'll be honest. Like, I've been in sort of the Mikado sphere, like, making music for a little while now. Like I met Emkew about a year ago, or I think maybe a year and a half ago now, actually. And I was still just playing at gigs and stuff, and I had songs written, and people kind of knew who I was and like what I was about, but I hadn't had anything like concrete. I didn't feel like I was ready personally. But I mean, you know, in terms of coming up to a release, it's really helped me sort of realize, okay, like sometimes you do have to invest in yourself and treat your music and your business kind of like a brand. But, you know, in saying that, you shouldn't feel like you have to corporatize yourself. You shouldn't feel like I have to do this X, Y, Z step to make it, because really, like, all three of us have different, like, experiences, and that's just the three of us, like, let alone the rest of Vibe Union, let alone the rest of the other people that we know. So, I mean, you know, in terms of my personal experience, it's been quite eye-opening for me to do the release, because I get to now go, all right, I have the content, I have the music, how the fuck am I going to get it out there? Like, what's the next step? And that's the hardest question to ask yourself, because that's the scariest part, I feel.
Yeah.
Because you're demanding a response from the world at this point.
100%.
My approach has always been to, because I don't know, this will sound like a brag, but I've been exceptionally prolific in my output. I remember, so when I kind of kicked off as Rhath, I started off with about 3 EPs in the first half year, and then I did another 4 in the next half year or something like that. I then deleted all of them. Once I released them, and then I thought the new ones were better, so I took them down. But I've always had that approach that just like put out into the universe and see what happens. But you know, you tell yourself, you're like, well, I know that I'm not really putting that much into it, so I'm not expecting a big response anyway. But then when you don't get the big response,
You
still wanted it. I still really wanted it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I recognize that it's more screaming into the void than it is actually releasing music. And this is the first time that I'm trying to treat it with a bit more respect. Because if it's like, do you respect your own music enough to give it to other people?
Do you want to invest in yourself enough to, like, do you believe you're worth it, like, you know, worth sinking money into maybe studio time and promotion and, you know, maybe investing in people with resources that are greater than yours, because, you know, you're worth it and you know that your music's worth it. That's, for me, that was the hardest part, because I went like 3 years without releasing anything. And not that I didn't think those things were necessarily worth releasing, but I feel now that, like, my music's preview ready, well, not preview, like listen ready, I guess, or ready for the masses, I suppose. But my point is that it can be hard to know when exactly that is. But I think for me, I just kind of felt it. I was like, oh, okay. And you can only really do that by, like, you know, the feedback of your peers and being able to reach out. And I think the biggest thing for me, and in the push towards actually getting a release and, like, you know, taking my finger out, so to speak, was having the support of, like, a crew like Vibe Union that are always continuing the content train. There's always stuff going on, and it makes me feel like, oh my God, I want to be a part of it too. But, you know, if I do need to take a step back and take some respite, like, you know, the people are still going to be supportive of me, whether I'm, like, currently making content or not.
Yeah, nice. I think, you guys have touched on a few areas, and I kind of want to break them down, and then let's, like, kind of go through them one by one.
100%.
What I think, you know, we start off with is, like, what does, like, legitimate even mean, right? And I think that that's a really critical question, but maybe it kind of breaks down into these 4 elements. So it seems to need to start with self-belief, right? I am doing this and I'm worthy of doing this, regardless of outcome. Should I wake up and make music?
Yeah.
And that's kind of step one. And I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory, but, you know, I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on that.
Of course.
Then from there, it's, I guess, validation. So the external, and I guess what we can call branding. So you use this term really well.
Yeah.
And I think I'd really want to dive into that concept of brand and how you present yourself outwardly. The next one is connection. And this is about connecting the brand to an audience.
Yep.
Now it's about connecting the entity of Mikado, of Rhath, of Emkew to labels, to producers, to venues, and then finally what I would say, or maybe actually interchangeably, they're probably not in order, but then I think the concept of money. I really want to talk about money because I feel like there's a bit of contention around that topic at this table.
Yeah.
But I guess self-belief is the big one, and Rhath, you've touched on this already a little bit, and we've kind of been speaking about it a fair bit. I guess, like, I just want to quickly share a little bit of a story for myself. I know that I was making music in some way, shape, form, or another, just like on the off, whatever. I would do a remix of such and such. I'd do a mashup and just like put it up on SoundCloud. It's like a thing, you know. That was like 8 years ago, and then and that was just like, oh, this idea popped into my head. I'm going to just create this thing. And then I know that I went through this phase where I'd been creating some music with some people, and now it's like, okay, I actually want this to go somewhere. I like want to be making more music, and I want to do this thing for real. And I feel like a critical moment, even though it's on the external side, probably doesn't mean much, and it is, you know, it ties into one of the things later. was actually finally sitting down to make a Facebook page. And like, even at that point, I didn't decide, I wasn't sure I wanted to keep the name Emkew. And to be honest, I still don't necessarily know that I do. But like in that moment, it was just like, well, okay, you know what? If this is what's holding me back, then just pick a name, pick a Facebook page, make the thing exist in a way that is now visible, searchable, and all that kind of stuff, and let people know. So the self-belief had been there for a minute, and then finally it cemented when I was like, okay, now I need to make this real for one person other than me. So I made a Facebook status update. It was like, yo guys, I'm doing a rap thing, like da-da-da, go check out this page. Here's the page. You know, made a banner and all that kind of stuff for it. And that took me out of that first step really critically. But I just wanted to know, like, what was that sort of moment for you that you felt your self-belief in yourself as an artist had kind of galvanized and become a real thing?
When I started lying to myself.
Okay.
Interesting. Do go on.
I think, like, I don't know, I think it's still an ongoing thing for me. I think I touched on a previous podcast that, like, the thing that I love the most is the process of being actually in the room making the music and editing content and stuff like that. So the final product and presenting that to people is still something that I'm a bit, like, unsure of myself with. Like, is this up to this? Is this up to scratch? Is this as good as the people I'm trying to not emulate, but, you know, want to match?
Who inspire me? Like, yeah, 100%.
And I tried to take the approach of, like, I know that they listen to their music and go, like, am I up to scratch? Am I still doing the best work I can be doing, or am I all that? And so I just, like, kind of lied a little bit, being like, not lied, just started convincing myself. It's like fake it till you make it confidence-wise. And just saying, like, all right, cool, I'm just going to pretend that I really believe in my music. And then slowly, hopefully, I will start to actually just believe that other people are enjoying it in a way.
But I think, you know, other people are enjoying it and you just aren't aware of it because you're close to the content, which is something I had to get over.
Yeah, so I think the lying to myself is more of just a bit of a bit, but, like...
Pep.
It's... Once, you know, it's the same thing. When you fake it, you fake confident, and then you actually do end up being confident. It's not actually, it's not that you're just really good at faking now, and deep down you're still battling with this self-doubt, which I'm sure we all are to a degree. But if you start just telling yourself every day, like, yeah, it's worth it. This content is worth people to check out.
Nice.
Then at some point you will. It's not lying anymore. You just do believe it.
I think that ties really well into what we were talking about in the episode about perfectionism, right? And this idea that perfectionism can sometimes be a manifestation of insecurity. So if you are actually not secure in yourself as an artist, you're not interested in growing from the process, you're still holding on to something, then you're not going to want to do the exercise of fakery. You're just going to hold on to this thing like, no, I'm going to be such an incredibly legitimate artist. You don't believe yourself legitimate yet. That's why you're not willing to create the art and go through the creation process.
Right.
So this idea that at some point you trick yourself into... It's putting the kids... painting on the fridge.
Yeah.
They're 4 years old. It looks like a bunch of nonsense, right? There's no way that this is me as your dad. This is a horrible picture. But you lie to them and you tell them this is fantastic and I love it so much, and you put it on the fridge.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and you say that, and I think that's an essential skill to learn. So I really like that as a point of legitimacy. I think that's a really cool moment in self-belief to be like, I believe in myself that there's going to be more beyond this. So I have to accept that this is what it is, and let's get it out there. Really cool. So, okay, Mikado, I guess, you know, you were really smashing this home in terms of the brand concept. Do you want to, like, flesh that out a little bit more, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, for so much of my, like, I don't want to say career, but, like, the amount of time that I've been making music, which has been a long time, you know, not... including the Mikado era, as I'm going to call it. But I think in terms of brand, the only thing I was ever really interested in selling was myself. Like, a big part of what I am about and what my music is about is, if you listen to my music, you listen to me. And for me, brand is important. Brand awareness is important. But the important thing for me to understand is that my brand is authenticity, and my brand is expressing Mikado in a way that is organic and authentic to me. And I mean, what does that even mean for each artist? I think for me, going back to this whole step one kind of idea, is that I had to go through like 1,000 steps to get to my step one, which is now. And, these guys have both had like streaming releases before, and in a lot of ways, they're miles ahead of me. And in a lot of ways, I'm advanced in other things, other aspects, I guess, I can't think of any specific ones, but I'm sure they're out there.
Being a boss.
being a boss. And a HBIC. We'll get to that later. Spoilers! But essentially, the idea of brand and knowing, okay, this is how I want people to see me and perceive me. And I've spent a life of being very aware of how people perceive me and in terms of how I look, how I come across. So I think the thing that was important for me was getting the music right and developing that, so that way I could just come to the table as I was, and I didn't feel like I needed to sell a brand or a visual aesthetic. Like, some people, when they're selling their music, they rely heavily on visuals, and they rely a lot on
Hey.
What's up?
No.
So my MO.
I'm trying to at Rhath, rather. Stupid me, not him. Anyway, I guess I got a little bit off track there, but I wrote some notes down. My point was that you got to be connected to what you make and into what people are tuning into you for. For example, I present a lot of female-forward lyrics. I present a lot of themes and messages that I know women can relate with. So I would be foolish not to understand that and be like, okay, how can I get more people I know are going to like this music or not to listen, rather, is the word that I meant. And just knowing that, okay, I'm good now. Like, I'm not as insecure about my music. Oh, are people going to like it? And in that whole preview stage of getting feedback and all of that, like, I'm not concerned about that anymore. So now I can sort of take a step back and dissect it in a not like a third party like perspective, but more so like I can detach from it a little bit and go, all right, this is how I look. This is what I want to present. As Mikado, I'm very much like, I used to wear like lots of wigs and be like very costumey. Now I'm a lot more grounded in my appearance. I mean, there are still massive concepts that I have in mind, but it's less me trying to be someone else. And, in terms of finding your own authenticity, I think that's when you really start to become your own artist. And that's when you really are like, okay, I am Mikado. No one else is serving Mikado. Mikado's going to serve Mikado. Rhath is going to serve Rhath. Emkew's going to serve Emkew. So why not do that to the best of my ability? And that's kind of how I feel in terms of my brand. I feel like I maybe got like a bit off base and not quite on the topic.
No, that's great. It sounds like you're internally and personally legitimizing your branding.
Yes,
it's very integral to you, and it seems to be very not ignorant, but like regardless of what the external feedback is about appearance and brand. This is what I want to do. So you're setting your own release schedules. You're setting your own imagery. The fact that you're on top of the cover art and things like that, I think is really powerful, right? Like we've had this conversation a lot about sort of fake macho and that type of thing in rap and hip hop, especially of you meet some artists and even when they're talking to you before and after their set at gigs, you're like, this isn't you. No, this is like a thing you've constructed. So what's your relationship with that sort of externally devised brand and how do you see it? Have you ever sort of put on a front, and has it been kind of in relation to the external legitimization of your brand?
I think I'm really bad at fronting. I think that's actually I had an experience just when I was working as a barista, and I worked with this guy who was also definitely self-conscious and a bit antisocial in a way, same sense as I am, but he had really gotten down pat the, hi, morning, how are you? How was your night last night? What did you do on the weekend? That kind of stuff. Just like these little casual questions. And I actually had an aha moment of like when I was like 24, 25 maybe. I was like, oh, that's small talk. I just figured out small talk. That's how you do it. Oh my God.
I've hacked small talk.
Yeah. It completely eluded me. I could not pretend to give a shit about certain things. I could not find these questions in my vocabulary. I just didn't understand how to get to that point.
That's a skill though, bro.
Yeah. But it seems like it's something that's kind of shown as like everyone has this, everyone can do this. It's easy. It's nothing. and I really struggled with it. But because of that, then I also found that my brand always felt so tied to who I was because I wasn't able to kind of see it in any other way. I couldn't fit in with, like, I could never be macho. I'm not going to be that guy.
Sure.
I can't be aggressive. I mean, I can be in my own sense, but it's more cartoony. So I felt very tied to who I was, my brand. And this is a thought that I had while you were speaking is so I've got a new release coming up and it's very visual based. But
not that that's a bad thing.
the confidence behind releasing this project, I think, has not come kind of half come from the project itself and being like, oh, this is actually pretty good. But more importantly is there's a confidence in myself. And that was the underlying thing that enabled me to take it seriously.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the hardest thing to do. Like to pretend that you're a super confident musician, super confident rapper, what have you. But inside, you're like, oh man, I don't have any confidence in myself as a human being, regardless of what I'm doing as a performer. Just as a human being, I have these massive insecurities.
Right.
Maybe the work to legitimize yourself as an artist, because it's such an inherently personal thing, is to work on yourself first, and then you can go on from there.
100%. And I think, it's about having self-awareness because it's such an intrinsic thing, like, because you need to know what you do and how you excel. Because I think for me, when I was rapping and in the early days of when I was starting to get my wordsmithing down pat, it was about expressing how I felt in a way that I knew would be, not that I knew would be relatable, but that I knew was realistically authentic to me. And I never tried to defer from that because, I mean, why would I want to? And there was a point I was trying to make and now I can't remember what it was. It's just like straight out of there. What were we just talking about? Please remind me.
Fronting and being confident in who you are as a human being.
Yes,
before
I remember
us.
what I was talking about. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off just then. Yes, that's where a lot of my rap came from was, a place of not having any confidence. And, at that point I was only a vocalist and people really only took me seriously as a vocalist. And I was like, all right, no, I want them to take me seriously as an MC. So what do I have to do to make that happen? All right, I'm going to consume as much reference material as possible because, I wasn't confident. The only way you get better is like you keep listening, you keep getting feedback, you keep like pushing your stuff and people like, oh, you seem to be out of breath by the end of your bar. Like maybe and that was because I was trying to like lower my voice, like make it lower it, make it higher. But not to go too off topic, but it really did come from a lack of confidence to a point where like when I was on stage, I felt like I was the most Mikado. Like I was Mikado. I was no longer like Casey anymore. So, there came a point where I truly believed that I was the HBIC, head bitch in charge, for those who are uninformed. But it really did just happen one day. There was a shift in my mind and I was like, oh, I believe the words I'm saying. I know I'm delivering them in a way. I know it's strong. And that's when I was like, all right, let's have some fun with this. That's when you can relax and like ease up a little bit. Hard part's done.
Yep. I think, something that we all seem to agree on is as musicians, it feels like our brand is just us. Like I know for me, like ultimately all the like social media side of things, it feels like such an abstraction because it's like, I know that that's not me. That's like a 5%er. Like you get so little out of even this. Like I enjoy this exercise because it's like, it's me talking. It's not Emkew. It's not a curated thing. And hopefully people are hearing it all. So the idea of sort of Instagram and stuff, like I know that my brand ultimately is like, let's catch up. Like, okay, cool. I've just done a set. You want to talk? Like, let's come and talk. Like, get to know Emkew because that is the brand. That is the product. Everything else is like a subset off of that. And I feel like we, really tie into that philosophy pretty heavily. And then in terms of fronting, that's when, that's something I feel like I have to do to maintain some version of a brand or an identity on social media. And that's where like, I've been doing this thing of how does Instagram look nice? So, okay, every third post I make is going to be a quote tile from like one of my lyrics or something like that. And I just kind of had to decide that's a thing I want to do because now when I look at my own Instagram or look at other people's Instagrams or people look at mine, there's deliberateness, there's intent. Like this word keeps coming up for me, but when there is that deliberateness in something that I see, this art out the window, like that to me is like, okay, cool, that's legitimate, that's meant to be there. Whereas like a trolley thrown on the side of the road to me is like, no, that's not deliberate, so it doesn't feel
purposeful.
legitimate. It's not purposeful.
Yeah, totally.
So I think for me, like that front then becomes, okay, I'm going to do something deliberately. What do I do? And then it does become about emulating or experimenting. And I feel like where you are, like if you're watching this, chances are you're in a place where you're asking yourself these questions as well. I think what the takeaway, at least in terms of branding and being legitimate in your brand, is about, one, giving yourself that permission, but then two, acknowledging that you are your brand. You can't have this abstracted thing out there. Like, you're not Bill Gates and your brand is not Microsoft. You are who you are as an artist. And yeah, okay, give yourself a name, but that kind of, in my opinion, you shouldn't let that switch off once you get off the stage.
Yeah.
It starts to really split you as a human, I feel like, to do these characters for so persistently long period of time. So I think that's that brand side of things. And I guess where we're already touching now is the connection. So connecting in audiences, connecting your music, your ideas to people, to places, to labels, to entities. How, like, what's been a moment for each of you that you felt your brand? So at what point did Mikado or Rhath legitimately like connect with some other like entity or brand?
That's a tough one. Do you have one? Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'll go. Yeah, you go.
I mean, I circle everything back to Vibe Union, but I would say Vibe Union because being more inclined on the production side of things, so I felt like part of my brand was the behind the scenes, and so like to feel like I was actually connecting as Rhath as an artist, and to see my audience grow was through Vibe Union because I thought, okay, because this makes sense that I've presented Rhath as a character who is constantly working, constantly producing, constantly trying to build something. And so, yeah, you know, I would try and present myself online like, hey guys, come and check out my music, like everyone does. Like, hey, you gotta like, comment, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. And you do need to do that. And when I do make content, I do like doing, you know, I do need to do some of that kind of stuff to, in turn. But I found my brand actually fits really well as a member of this other thing that I'm building with these other people. And I found that's gotten me much more recognition as an artist. Even if people don't listen to my stuff all the time, they still see me as like, oh, this person is still doing something. This person is still part of a scene, just simply by being amongst it all the time and being in the behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Can we dive into that a little bit more? So you're saying they, some other person, some other external party, it legitimately sees you, Rhath, as someone who's participating in this thing. Can you give us an example of a time that you have then seen that process, that someone is like, you've seen that light bulb for someone else go off of like, oh, that's that guy. And, you know, has it led to work for you? Has it led to a new connection or a new collab for you? Like, what does that look like? And I guess to dissect, what does legitimacy then look like in that connection?
I mean, I think it probably relates more to my production work. And so I have had other, I mean, people who have collaborated with Vibe Union, but they then see me as that, as a producer, as an artist, and like someone who is, they can approach to work with further. Even having people like D-Rad MC approaching me for mixing work and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, cool. This actually feels like, I mean, this will go into money, which we'll discuss separately anyway, but, you know, money is great. And money does feel a bit like, oh, I'm legit now. This is my job. So in that sense, like, you know, shouting out into the void with another album, another EP all the time, that's really, that's good. It's important for me to be releasing stuff. But having this back end stuff where it still feels very much part of my brand, because I think I've branded myself in that way, then that feels like, all right, cool. I'm getting legitimized by these other artists seeing me and wanting to work with me and collaborate with me and use me as an asset. And then the releases and all that kind of stuff also takes a bit of the pressure off, that kind of thing. And so now when I put those out, this is a bit of work that I've done. And it doesn't need to be everything to me, in a sense.
All right. So I guess in this case, the example you're giving is getting more work. Is the brand is kind of, not the brand, or just who you are, legit, like the legitimacy of who you are is determined by the fact that it's kind of self-perpetuating now. By having done one project, you've not put out the feelers to get more mixing work. Mixing work has come to you because people see you as a legitimate guy who can do mixing and audio engineering stuff. And then just what you touched on right at the end there is that sort of multifaceted nature. Now that you can also be Rhath the mixing guy, Rhath the producer, suddenly it takes this edge off of Rhath the musician who needs to pump out 1,000 stream songs on the first day and stuff like that. Mikado, like, what's your experience been in terms of connecting Mikado to people, and do you see this multifaceted side of things?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in terms of like even moments where I felt like, oh, this is real now. I mean, I've had a lot of them in the past couple of weeks, you know, planning for the release and stuff, and, you know, speaking to different people, which I'll get into in a sec. But I think for me, the important thing is recognizing that there's not just one moment, that like I'm getting moments like that all the time. And that's the exciting part for me, really, because I know that, excuse me, that no matter exactly like what I'm doing, that the train is still going to keep moving. Like I'm not, at this point, I'm not going to stop. I can't stop. I won't stop. So, I mean, in that sense, I would be wrong. Yeah. Not to keep it moving, not to just embrace what's going on. So, I mean, for me, like, for example, there's been a few moments recently, someone like at a family barbecue or something like that. My parents were doing the whole proud like parent thing. They're like, oh, Casey's got a blah, blah, blah coming out. Blah, single. Don't know why I lost the word for that. Rah, 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 single, whatever. And then, yeah, it so happened that this lady was also an MC, and she's like, Mikado, oh, I've heard of her. And I was like, what the hell? No, you haven't. She's like, yeah, I have. And then she pulled up my Instagram, and I was like, that's bloody wild. Like, and that was pretty recently as well. And like at that point, I hadn't even put stuff back out into the stratosphere, because I think, to circle back on brand for a moment, like not too long ago, I like scrubbed my whole Instagram and started again. And don't be afraid to do shit like that. Like, you know, who cares? No one's going to remember what your old Instagram looked like. But, you know, for me, that was a really special moment. And, you know, when I posted a couple snippets of my singles that are coming up, the producers who made the beats commented, oh, this is fire, blah, blah, blah. Even producers that didn't know that I followed their beats and like have so many of them saved were commenting. I was like, what the fuck? What is happening? I was having a bit of a freak out. So, I mean, you know, it's moments like that. It's not like, oh, I got paid $1,000 to write a song or anything like that. It's just like, okay, I recognize that whatever's happening now, this is the next step. Wicked. I'm one step closer. Yep. So, I think, yeah, in summation of that, it's hard to say, because you're going to keep experiencing those moments, and I'm going to keep experiencing those moments. Like, you know, for me, that moment came when I picked my name. Like when I decided what style I wanted to do, with the moment I decided, okay, I'm going to sing and I'm going to be an MC as well. Like, you know, those are all moments that made me professional, because if I didn't make those decisions then, I wouldn't be where I am now. So I'd be remiss to say that there's like one significant, like, oh, I am Mikado now, because I just keep living that. Yeah. I'm not sure if I digressed off the original question.
No, that's fantastic. In terms of, understanding that connection and going, okay, cool, this is what I'm doing, and people are connecting to it. And that connection is really powerful. Especially, I love that story about someone you tangentially know. They don't know you through that. They know you through this. That's very legitimate. That's powerful.
And like, even on what Rye was saying, like they know you as the guy, like the mixing guy. Like, you know, Casey, the singer, Mikado, the music. That used to be my old handle. Anyway, digressing. But it's cool to have people recognize you and see you for your skills. And I think an important part of that is how you carry yourself. Because when I came into Vibe Union, you know, I didn't really think that we're not that we weren't going to kick it as homies. But, you know, when I met Rhath, for example, I was like super profesh. I was like, oh, these guys are serious. I gotta get my game face on and be like, hi, Rye, like, just so you know, I've attached this email, blah, 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 et cetera. Good night, XOXO Gossip Girl. So, I mean, for me, it's also about how you present yourself. Like, if you wanted to be treated as a professional, I mean, for me, that's how you got to act. And you know, a lot of what I talk about is women commanding and being deserving of respect in the hip hop industry, and allowing for more opportunities and avenues of diversity in such a male skewed genre, I will say. So for me, it's all about how you present yourself. Like, I want to be perceived as power. I want to be perceived as strong, victorious, you know, all of those things that are commonly associated with male rappers, but not with female rappers, but it's easier to lean on physical attributes and things like that. There's not such an emphasis on, okay, all right, the flesh vehicle is meaningless. What is the theme that we're trying to convey?
You've been listening to a lot of Dilly Dave.
The
flesh vehicle.
Flesh vehicle, Mr. D Dave. Fuck yeah, Dilly.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No,
but,
you're all good. You're all good. But essentially, it's an ongoing thing. So I wanted to, just be really clear that this is who I am. This is what I stand for. It's clear in my music. It's clear in what I say. It's clear in what I do. And when people talk to me and they present themselves to me, I give them no reason to believe that I'm anything less than a professional.
Amazing.
I conduct myself in music business the same way I do it at my day job. So, you know, I think it's about having that professional mentality and understanding that this isn't just me making shit in my bedroom anymore. This is a business. I have to talk to people. I have to correspond with people. I have to be professional. I have to keep up on my emails. I have to keep up on, my Instagram, because these are all important markers and indicators of success for other people. So if I want to legitimize myself, I have to, not for any other reason than to progress my music and get it to more people. I kind of have to play into the algorithm and to understand, okay, this is what I have to do to get people listening to my music, because I know it's good music.
Well said.
Can I just slightly connect to back what we were talking about before
Get
then
in.
with fronting then, because this is what drives me completely insane is like, I don't know, I see it in other genres when I used to play garage rock and stuff like that, but I've seen it predominantly in hip hop, and I think hip hop because hip hop is a lot of fronting. It is a lot of you do play a character.
100%.
You do exaggerate a lot of your personality and features and things like that. But it drives me insane when you speak to someone, speak to a rapper, speak to a producer, what have you, and they're still in that mode of like, yeah, dog, yeah, no, absolutely, dog, let's do this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you're not being a real person right now. I know there's a real person behind the facade, and that facade's great when you're on stage and when you're on Instagram.
I just need you to send me an email.
Yeah, exactly. The way you send an email at the start, I'm like, that's what we should be doing, because it is business. Even if there's not money involved, like, why would you take someone for a ride when you're trying to collaborate and trying to build something? Because ideally, everyone wants to succeed. We all want to be successful, but it is an industry. There is a music industry, and you act in a certain way that's just so hard to work with.
It's difficult.
Okay, so I know for a fact, it's going off in my brain, and I feel like we're in the same boat. There's someone over there right now that's just like, you're contradicting yourselves. And I can tell you exactly how. We were just talking before about the same thing. Why are these people fronting? They're putting on these accents and all this kind of stuff. And you were just talking then about, you need to always present yourself as this thing. I believe in this. And so for some people, that is a permanent thing. They believe in their brand so much. And I pay this.
Yeah.
I don't know which way I sit, because I totally see the argument for always putting on the voice, always putting on the character, even if it's remotely related to you as an artist and not you as a person. That's it. So like, now you have the total separation between who I am with my family, and my family doesn't give two shits about my music, and everyone else in the world is a music contact. So I speak with them in my music voice and talk to them with those words in that language. My posture changes, and I love the dedication and the commitment. But if it's such a big leap, like if you go from talking like, hello, nice to meet you, my name is Mashud Qureshi, and I'm a business professional, to like, sup dog, I'm gonna tell you about like what my life's all about, like when I grew up back in Harlem. And it's like, but you didn't grow up in Harlem. Like, it depends on like the level of abstraction, but I do pay. It's annoying to be on the receiving end of that when I go up and like, hey, I'm Mash, and they're like, hey, my name is Pussy with $3 signs. And it's like, oh, okay, I know that's not your name, but I'm not going to ask for your license. Anyway, great setup
I'd like
there,
to
guy.
be excused from this podcast, please.
That was gold.
That was excellent. I'm sorry. Continue.
I think it's the energy level for me. I think so.
Pussy with $3. All right, my bad. I
we mentioned on the previous podcast that one of the times that I felt the most progress through this year is being called Rhath as my name.
Yeah.
As people know me as Rhath when we're having our little Vibe Union chats. And sometimes we, flip between Ryan and Rhath, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. And that does that.
Because we know you as both, though, to be fair.
Yeah. So I think it's the energy. I think it's like, it's not that you have to be a totally different person, but it's like that's a show for the fan. And right now we're trying to talk business, and you can still talk in the same way, but just take it down a couple of notches so we can actually just get through the conversation. Because otherwise, there's all this just muck that we have to kind of get through.
Yeah.
It depends on who you're talking to. It depends on each individual person, and we're assuming a highly exaggerated version of this anyway. Most people who I talk to don't do this anyway. They do tone it down. They do talk to you like a regular person. And what's a regular person? What do I fucking know anyway?
All right. So, okay, if you're watching this, we want to hear from you. Do you spell pussy with $signs or S's?
Oh my God. Or
Drop it in the comments.
Yeah,
let us know.
Z's.
Or Z's. Amazing. So before we move on to the next topic, I want to give you 3 stories that I know are sort of the arc of my I'm doing this thing now.
Yeah.
So first one is actually very much in what you were talking about in terms of I'm introducing myself as a musician.
Yeah.
When that happened, so I made the Facebook page and all that kind of stuff. I decided okay, cool. For a career, I'm going to be doing, I was doing sales and then I quit all that when did Vipassana came back. And I was like, I'm an Uber driver now and I'm going to meet all these interesting, incredible people. And I did. I met so many cool people. I'm always going to lead with, if they ask me what I do music. This is just what I do on the side to keep myself fed.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that and suddenly I'm getting people following me on Instagram. They're can't wait to see what you released. I'm sure if anyone's still along for the ride since that ride, thank you, bless you, but I doubt it. But it's actually, there is one guy, I'm going to totally hit him up, David. He was a really cool guy.
Dilly David?
No, different David. But yeah, he actually was yeah, dude, I've been linked up since then. So what that led to was I drove a guy one morning to his work lecturing music at RMIT. And by the end of the ride, we were like, man, this is really cool. So, you're a musician and all that kind of thing. He's like, I play in this band. We're playing at, Bar 303 this Friday. This was a Tuesday. I was like, please, I'm going to link up. I'm going to connect with you. It'll be really cool. And he's like, yeah, it might be cool to collab. So I listened to their music, went out that Friday night and checked out their show, and they were opening for another band. So this was Sikandar and they were opening for Steady State Massive. And so Sikandar, I was like, man, this is really cool. I dig your music, I dig your sound. And then the band after them, I was like, these guys are really cool. You know what they need? They also need a rapper. So in that moment, I was so steeped in my self-legitimacy that I not only hit up Sikandar again and I was like, yo, pretty, what's up? Let's make some music together, because he was my neighbor. I picked him up from 2 streets down.
Love that.
But then I also hit up Steady State Massive and was like, yo guys, I really dig your sound. You seem like this sort of collective vibe. What's going on? Do you need a rapper? And they're like, come along to a rehearsal. Before a rehearsal could even happen, he was like, dude, we just booked a gig. We need an opener. Do you want to come and play? I'm like, sight unseen. You've never seen me perform. I sent you one demo, and you want, and he's like, yeah, I'll pay you. I was like, that's insane. You're an incredible human. And so there was this really powerful feeling of okay, I've obviously only interacted with this person as a musician who takes himself seriously. That feels really cool.
Yeah.
And that there was no other seal of approval, nothing else. I've just presented myself as who I legitimately believe myself to be, which is a musician and all that kind of thing. So powerful, powerful moment. Backed up, sometime later, I got a gig to initially just MC Salam Fest. I was there to just kind of do the MC thing. There'll be another co-host. And I got that because my mum was in touch with the organizer and had just been like, oh, if you need an MC or you need just someone to do a thing, my son is a musician and an entertainer, you should get him. So initially I was asked to just MC and I was like, hey, by the way, I do music and I can make it. And she was like, okay, cool, done.
Yeah.
And so that moment of my mum not only is not resisting, she's not only tolerating, she's now actively promoting. That's a really powerful moment in legitimacy of oh, the people around me get it now.
Yeah.
And they know either to stay out of the way
true.
or better yet to promote it. And then since then I've had family and friends all recommending me for various other things, and that feels insane. The third story is similar to what you said, and it was the first time this happened. Walking around in Brunswick, walking past a bar, just Georgia and I out on a lovely evening stroll. And just out of nowhere, hey, Emkew! what? And I look behind me, and so Fruity Lex, gorgeous human being, Luke O'Brien, comes out of this venue, and he's just like, yo, Emkew, what's going on? And I was like, oh, like, yeah, of course. Like, it doesn't... Immediately, there was that thing of like, oh, a total like fan out of nowhere. But then I'm like, oh, like a contemporary, like someone, like we get along, and that's how he knows me, and he's just called out for me. Like, a bunch of people are now looking around, like, what kind of a name is Emkew? Like, you sure?
Yeah.
And afterwards, walking on, like George is just looking at me like, "You're right. This is like a legit thing." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, it is." So for me, like those are those kind of key moments. And mind you, all of those start with, I genuinely believe this. This is my brand and how I'm promoting myself. And finally, the connection for me in each of those moments was like, someone else now believes this as well.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's a really powerful, like, you know, in the realm of sort of magic and stuff, that's a powerful spell to cast on individuals and a collective of, like, you know, the population, that people now genuinely believe this thing that was a pure fabrication. I wasn't born MQ. This is a new thing, and people believe it now. Mikado's on some inspiration.
Oh my God, no, you're like, I'm having like brain blast, like Jimmy Neutron style, like fire out. No, just everything you're saying is making complete sense, because I was like, even in what we were saying before, like, you know, I think we both had a situation where like someone else interacted with us in a way that affirmed how we felt about ourselves. And it's strange to think that at one point it's like, yeah, I'm a musician, like, that's what I am now. And then I made it true. And then we made it real. And then now that's the life that we're living. And I was, far out. You've blown my mind a little bit. Just because I'm thinking that literally one day I decided that I was going to do this, and now I am. And, you know, the power of thought and the power of self-motivation is a positive thing, as I'm sure everyone is aware. But, you know, self-esteem and valuing yourself correctly and holding yourself at a high value, which is, again, I can't say enough why collaboration is so important, because, you know, you only have one dialogue in your head. The second that you voice what you're doing, the second that you get other people involved is when it starts becoming real. And then, like Em was just saying, like, people put you up for opportunities. People recognize and believe what you're doing because you believe what you're doing. And I mean, essentially that's the crux of it. That's the reason why we make music, is for someone to believe in what we're doing and to follow along and to listen and to participate, because music is the ultimate activity of participation. It's, you know, if it's you presenting, if it's you listening. I fully derailed your point. I know you have another fantastic key moment.
I just have, all I want to do, I because of what you've just said, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this right now, I want you to take a breath, and then I want you to say, my name is, insert name here, and I am an artist, a musician, a singer. Whatever it is that you do that you believe you want to be, take this as your trigger moment. Like, take a breath, say the thing. My name is Emkew, and I'm an MC.
My name is Mikado, and I am an MC and a vocalist.
I am Rhath, and I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to music.
Oh, if he says so himself. But it's true. It's absolutely true. He's a multi-talented man.
Builder of worlds. Conqueror of all.
But you do have to be a jack of all trades, like to be a muso, though, like at an independent level, I feel. Sorry, cut you off.
No, well said. I hope that section, that was really powerful. I feel like we've already gotten that to a really, really cool point. And I think, like let's put a pin in that to where that is. And I think now let's talk about money, because I feel like money is a really contentious issue. And I am going to get the ball rolling, because I feel like what I bring to this is probably going to be something that is not often heard or said in this conversation.
Okay.
Cool.
My relationship with money, ever since I've been growing up, is very much that this is just like a thing that facilitates things, but not in any kind of overall meaningful way. And I have to acknowledge that comes from a place of privilege. My parents have kind of been able to take care of the meaningful stuff, so that money has never meant meaningful stuff to me. So that, plus like a lifetime of like simplicity and accepting the smaller things. And one key moment was I attended a conference. It was a Model UN conference held in Perth. And the organizer, the convener of that conference, was an incredible young woman named Kat Broad. I remember the organizing committee meeting the night before we started. And she explained to us all, like, so we were on the organizing side of things, mind you. She explained to us all that the thing that had made this work so effectively well as a youth organization, not for profit, like all the stuff that rails against you, is she said we went in with one philosophy. Whatever we're trying to get that is above and beyond the baseline only if it's free. That was the idea for her, was just like if someone is offering buses to get delegates from one place to another or whatever it is, we'll only take it only if it's free, and you negotiate them down to free. And for me in that moment, it felt so powerful. I was like, this is not a scab, this is not someone who's cheaping out, because mind you, any dollar extra is stuff that young people have to pay for to access a really awesome program. So that's a key thing. But then above everything else, it's the belief in herself and the brand and what we were doing. What's the mission here? It's so important that people can and should want to get on board for the sake of being on board with this awesome thing. So that, ties very heavily into my personal philosophy. And I recognize as I say this, there's a bunch of people out there that are like, nah, that's stooge mentality. That's someone just trying to take money out of the system. That's you trying to get something for nothing. And I personally disagree with that idea. I know people do that, but I think, and I do believe in like fair pay for fair work. But I think that there is a difference when you are able to approach things as a collaborator mentality.
Yes.
And so for me personally, I've had that in the back of my head for a very long time. And I know I have made conscious choices to pay for specific things at key moments where it's like, I know exactly what I'm getting and I know that this is the transaction in the relationship. And other times I'm like, I know that this is a collaboration. I know that we have an ongoing relationship and money does a weird thing to people in individuals. And that's not the thing I'm trying to achieve. So for me, that only if it's free mentality has persisted for so long and has gotten me in an incredible place where, reaching out and collabing with Sikandar, getting a beat off of them to do a song, all that kind of stuff led to playing a Rainbow Serpent, led to more money. And so this philosophy that I keep hearing of like, you have to spend money to make money is like, I have spent $0, but for like the occasional drink hanging out with Sikandar, but I've made money from being a part of that project. How does your maxim equate there? So for me personally, my relationship is like, only if you have to spend money should you. Otherwise, I promise you there are people willing to work with you, collaborate with you, and treat that as a collaboration. I think it's respect. So anyway, I wanted to get the ball rolling with that philosophy. How do you feel about the idea of only if it's free?
I love it. I think saying the jack of all trades thing before, like that's been my goal from day one. I had probably not a similar upbringing because I think there was a lot less money in my household, but my dad just drilled into me that like money comes and goes, and you'll have it when you need it. Don't worry too much about it. Make sure you're doing what you need to be doing. And so I always had the mentality of like, all right, well, cool. Well, I kind of need to do everything because I can't afford to pay someone else yet. And I really cannot wait for the day when I can pay someone else to do some shit because I don't want to do Instagram. I don't even want to really mix my own music, to be honest. I don't like mixing
time is
for the fun of it. I just do it because I need to, and I want to be good at it because it helps other people. But in terms of a job, not interested. So yeah, always had that mentality, and it also ties so heavily into my just belief around money, because I'm a big believer in universal basic income or something along those lines. I think humanity has the ability to provide for itself without this system that is not designed, but like that is so easily exploited. I don't need to go into UBIs, but basically the idea in my mind is that if I'm not doing this anyway, if I wasn't gonna do this anyway, regardless of the monetary incentives, then it's gonna be a hollow experience anyway. And everyone that I've found that has helped me the most in my career, that's not downplaying myself after this big conversation. More so just funny because I guess there's no money coming from my music, so I guess I do downplay the career. So anyway, whole kettle of fish. But everyone who I've found who has helped me the most has done it in that sense. They're like, oh, cool, you want to do this thing? It's the thing that I want to do anyway, so let's do it together because we're going to help each other in all the ways that we can't, because it's really just manpower. It's just time of a day. Anyway.
Well, I mean, I feel a couple ways on it. I'm a little close here. Hold on. I feel a couple ways about it. I think for me, when I think about money, I think about access to resources. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I grew up poor or anything like that. But, in terms of my mentality about money, I see it as literally can be exchanged for goods and services. Like, this is my ticket to get the thing that I want. However, I recognize that there's a lot of non-monetary value in the things that you can bring, and there is actually monetary value in the things that you bring and the things that you can give to people, misspoke. But especially in early days, like linking up with people and seeing what you can offer them and what they can offer you. Like, someone might be able to mix for you. You might do vocals for them, or, for example, you might do a hook, or you might do a verse, or you might do the mastering or something like that. And in exchange, you'll do some cover art, or, you might run promo for someone for a while because you understand the algorithm a little bit better. There's a wealth of skills and a wealth of resources that don't require monetary access. However, I do recognize that also kind of comes from a privileged position, because, not everyone has access to a network of people that, can do all these things. We're fortunate enough that we do, and I'm really blessed that we do. And when I was coming up and starting to figure out my style, I was blessed that I had a group of people that really took me in and helped me figure out what I was doing and gave me space to do so, and the confidence to do so. So, I mean, when I think of money, I really think of access to resources. Now, as much as I am trying to be the Jane of all trades, if you will, there are certain things that I just straight up can't do. Like, when it comes to vocal and audio production, like, I understand that that's something that I have to spend money on because I don't have the skill set. But if you have the skill set, that's not something that you have to spend money on, because you can be self-sufficient in that way. You might spend money on cover art, but I won't, because I could make my own cover art. Like, that's the whole thing about money for me. And I really like the kind of aspect that you brought up about, not everything comes from money. Opportunity does not always come from money. Like, some of my biggest leads and opportunities that I have lately, and I'm calling them opportunities because that's what they are, literally came from someone believing in me, because it was so clear that I believed in myself. And, like I said before, I've never given anyone any reason to doubt that I wouldn't make it or that I wouldn't be successful. And, I try to not be fake with it or front about it, but when I am talking to people who I know are more successful than me and who I know are in the position that I want to be in, I'm like, all right, I'm going to not sell Mikado, but just be very clear that this is a viable brand. This is viable music, and there is absolutely no reason why it wouldn't be, and there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't want to help me, because you believe in what I'm doing. You love it. Don't lie. You love it. So it's just that. It's fun. It's you can diffuse it with personality, but essentially there are so many ways to get what you want, and really it's just about, for me, having good product, having good awareness of what I bring to the table, and really we keep coming back to this whole self-belief thing, but it's really it's 100% true. And I think the combination of everything that we're talking about can make money irrelevant in a lot of ways, because I know a lot of people think, okay, musician, the only way to come in and get successful is to be signed, or to have someone discover you, or to go through the whole, like, old school A&R scouting hubbub. That's not the case. The world is different now. The way of the land is different. The way we make music is different. The way we connect with people is different. So in that case, there's a lot of ways that you could do it with really spending very, very minimal money. But there are sometimes, I feel, and there are people who I think are worth it. Like the producer I'm working with, for example, right now, he's fantastic. And, every cent that I spend with him, I know exactly what I'm getting. And every single time I'm like, the product quality is top shelf, and I believe in it. And I have zero qualms spending that money, but not everyone can spend that money. So it's about understanding where your shortcomings lie, and then being a bit creative and circumventing those things, I feel.
Nice.
Can I also just kind of bring up one kind of point about this though as well, because I think I see this conversation a lot with older musicians who used to gig a lot, and now they say like, oh, I don't play for free, I will never play for free because it's undervaluing my time. And I get that mentality, because that's kind of what we're talking about. We're trying to value our own time.
Of course.
But in my the way I see it, the big problem is that the money isn't here. The money is up. The money is at the peak, at the highest point of the tower.
We're chasing money.
Yeah, we're chasing money because it's people like Spotify and Universal Music and those kind of people. They have basically the entire pool of money available for musicians, and they delve it out in very small amounts and keep it all for themselves. And so when people say like, I don't play for free because I value my time, it's like, dude, there's no money in playing music at a bar. You just don't make any money doing that. My brother's a professional jazz musician, and he scrapes together a bit of a living, but he has to teach on the side because jazz is one thing in Melbourne that you can actually get some money out of the bars for doing it. But for playing hip hop, playing blues, playing all this kind of stuff at the lower end of the industry, there is just not that much money to go around. Which I think that's a huge problem. And also, like, we're talking about, obviously I want to my mixing engineer, who's like my oldest and best friend. Love him to death, and he does amazing work, and I'm so glad that I get to work with him on this stuff. And I really want to pay him for his services a bunch of money.
Right.
One day I hope to be able to give him hundreds of thousands of dollars if I'm somehow successful. But I just don't have that money to give. Yeah. And so, like, yes, you're, in a sense, you undervalue people, but at the same time, like, there's just not the resources around us to give out. We all wish we could make big bucks from our friends, but it just isn't possible.
It's hard.
Kanye West said on the Joe Rogan Experience, the best currency isn't money, it's relationships. And I feel like that's what we're really like hitting in on here, is that yes, money can pay for the things. I've got like a storm of things to talk about on this. But the main thing, just coming off the back of what you were saying, is you can't pay him in dollars and cents, and yet he shows up and does the thing. And it's because there is this investment individually where you recognize the goal here isn't to make money. It's not a money in, money out scenario. The goal here is to enrich this relationship. You care deeply for one another. You want each other to get better. So you go to him and say, hey, man, I need the support to help me get better. And he, as a friend, makes a decision, yes or no. Yeah, you know what? Let's do this thing. Something that I was kind of mulling about is this sort of maxim, like the sort of one or the other. I feel like we can sum up kind of what we've been talking about with legitimacy costs money, including $0, but money doesn't legitimize. And I feel like what we see too often, and I know I went through this trap really early on, which was I need to do all the things that cost money to make it look like I'm legitimate, just to make it look like I'm legitimate, because I have a Spotify profile now, so I'm legitimate as an artist because I spent the money with DistroKid to go and have the account. I'm glad I do. I have a way that, that all works, but it was more important to look and seem legitimate because of the spending of money than it was to actually just make myself legitimate in a way that I'm consistently releasing music that connects to the people that I want it to connect to. So legitimacy costs money, but money does not legitimize. Yes. And I think that is something that once I cottoned onto that, I was able to then chill out. And I think part of the other thing that let me chill out with chasing legitimacy was that multifaceted thing. I'm not just a guy that needs to pump out banger tracks. I can also hang out and jam with some people on the weekend. I can also be the musician who doesn't even do music, gets up and hosts a gig and MCs in between. So those were kind of big moments in terms of legitimacy in that. So I feel like, we're very much on the same page. And I think it is really worth noting, the other one that I got off of what you were saying, Mikado, was this idea of like money is about unlocking access to resources. Yeah. And I think that's really critical. Listening to some economics sort of podcasts and thinking about this idea of money as a choice-making tool. Yeah. So money expands your choice-making. Now, I don't know the person that you know on a personal level, and I can't leverage that relationship to get mixing and mastering work done. I can tangentially because then I just get you to do it. But in the sense that, okay, someone watching this video who doesn't know Rhath personally and doesn't have access to someone who's an incredible mix mastering engineer, you need to then spend money, or you're just going to get the best that you have access to for free. And so you might know someone who is legitimate who costs $0. Legitimacy costs money, including $0. But you can't go and spend the money and just assume it's going to be done. There are going to be people out there that are going to be like, my mixing services cost $500, but fam, it's going to be the best thing ever. And then you pay them, and then it's not amazing, but you're also a total rookie who doesn't know what amazing is meant to sound like. You're like, well, I spent $500 on this, so I'm going to go like make it rain in the music video and shit like that. And so now you've assumed that money legitimizes. Just another bit of wisdom, and I feel like I'm name dropping, but really I'm just trying to shout these people out. I love a good shout out. A huge shout out for a guy, Jon Rotem. He's here in Melbourne. He heads up a band called Plots. He taught me a really cool thing, that he loves buying whatever shitty, shonky, crappy equipment because he would rather hit the limit of that piece of equipment than buy the $8,000 version and get bored of it. And because of that philosophy, I bought myself like a secondhand like set of DJ decks that like a couple of buttons are janky and they don't really work properly. And playing with that, I was like, awesome, for a couple months. Yeah, sweet. Like I've hit my limits on this, but no, I haven't. There's all this other stuff to learn. And then I kind of got bored. And I was like, man, I'm really glad that I only spent $150 on this thing when I know people with like $1,200, $1,300, $3,000 decks who either are really pursuing it, God bless them, or if you're like me and you kind of have this like jack of all trades mentality, you just want to try the thing. Dip your toes in and hit the limits that you possibly can with spending as little as possible. And when you know for real this thing is legit, then like I did the thing. I went and bought the right mic. I went and bought the right MacBook. I went and bought the interface. Like then you do the things that you know for sure. So don't assume that money legitimizes, but it is a really good indicator of legitimacy.
Well, something that I wanted to touch on as well is what you were saying about collaboration. Like, I believe we said it before, but I had an instance of this literally just a couple days ago where, I'm planning a music video currently, and literally so far everyone that I've gotten to be in the music video has just agreed to it because they want to be in it. So it's really exciting because I'm getting like aerial fitness dancers. They're on the poll. Just so we're all. Cool. I think aerial fitness is the term, but it's boss. Trust me. I've got a choreographer on board. She's amazing. I've actually known her for a long time, and I met her because I was working here and she was working there in retail at the shopping center. So it's really about that. It's about you don't even realize the skill sets that people in your life have. Sometimes you forget. I forget. I was like, oh shit, she's a choreographer, and then she hit me up and she's just like, and then it worked out perfectly because at the same time she's like, oh, I've got my musical theatre audition for such and such musical. And I was like, oh, wicked. She's like, can you help me with my vocal audition? I'm like, you fucking kidding me? Of course I can help you. Amazing. And to me, it feels like a privilege because that's a recognition of my skill. And, what Rhath was saying before, people will see you as the guy or the girl, But the exciting part for me was that was another aha moment that I had when people just wanted to be in it because they hadn't even heard the song yet. They were just like, yes, let's do it. Awesome. And it was through leveraging, your contacts and no hours. Because I knew, I was like, oh, my friend, she's an aerial fitness dancer. And then she's like, if you want, I'll just message my class and see who's interested. And I was like, yes, do that. That would be wicked. That would be so nice. Sorry, I just touched your leg. Caressed you there. But you know what, thinking about it now, that is such a really cool thing, and I am really blessed that's happened because now that also reaffirms to me that what I am doing is putting me on the right path, and that once they did go ahead and finally listen to the song, they were like more into it. Like they were like, yes, I'm ready. But yeah, I just wanted to interject that like collaboration, and I like that philosophy of, what did you say, something includes $0? Legitimacy
costs money.
Yes, legitimacy costs money, including $0. Yeah. I like that. I think that's a really good philosophy to have. This is a really long podcast.
That's great.
But you know what? We're very invested in. We all want you to be successful, so suck it in a nice way.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That was very subtle. You know what, Ryan? I just did. He opened up a Google Doc and typed in 70 minutes so far.
It seems way more passive aggressive. I'm just like, just a little knowledge.
Especially with the ellipses at the end. It's like, better. TikTok, bitch, hurry up. Like,
he just brought up the clock from 24 and it's just counting down, but it's in like 10 seconds.
Maybe final thoughts.
I guess I just wanted to like summarize like what we've kind of gone through. Like we've had an awesome talk about legitimacy, and we kind of, I think it following the chronology is it needs to start with identity. It needs to start with you believing in yourself that this is legit, and then you have a brand, whether that's a name, whether that's like a way that you talk to people, whatever it is, like own that and live in it as much as possible, and introduce other people as to yourself as that. Then it's about connection. So now that you're making these connections, we're all talking about how we've benefited from individuals and people that we've met and how they've led to then other opportunities. The first person you meet doesn't make the most incredible, profitable thing happen, but it starts off a chain reaction. And finally, it's about the money concept. So I feel like it's, money does not legitimize, but legitimacy does cost money, including $0.
Including $0.
So if you're out there, really start with step one. Tell yourself who you are and what you are, and believe that.
And I just want to say, very important as well, all of your step ones are going to look different. Like, just remember, because like I'm on a way different path and a way different journey to Rhath and Emkew here. Like, you know, it's wild. It's completely wild. And everyone is completely unique in their experience and in their, well, yeah, in their experience of the music industry and being an artist. And ultimately, it is the ultimate tribute to yourself and to your art, because art comes from the self. It comes from places that you didn't know were there. And I think, yeah, just ultimately for me, the biggest part was not comparing my journey to somebody else's. Your step one is going to be way different. Maybe you're not even on step one yet. You're on like step 0.5. Like, that's all right. That's fully fine. Take your time, baby. Take your time. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh.
Go on, say something insightful.
Yeah, was that a key for me to be insightful, or me key to line up the next track?
Okay, wrap it up.
Unless I'm in MC mode.
You don't have to say something if you're like, nah, Mikado said it.
I didn't see you being in that mode. I was more in the
In the say something.
in the queue up the.
Oh, in the...
Yeah.
Right.
You
We're so professional and so clear.
Yes, completely impromptu discussion, by the way, especially that breathing exercise Mash did. I was like, yeah, we should do more meditation, like in the videos. I think it's nice to have affirmations, like in the middle. Mm-hmm. It's great. No, seriously. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
Hey, Mikado, you got something come up soon?
I have a cheeky release coming up. I might. Well, okay, I have a couple of things coming up, but on the 18th of December, which I believe the podcast will be out post the 18th, my first single will be up on Spotify. This one is really exciting. It's been a long time in the making. You know, these guys have heard it like a trillion times now. They're probably over it. Nah. But this song itself is really personal to me, and I think really connects to what we're talking about here. It's called My Own, and the concept is about that you're going to be okay. No matter how you feel or how low you are, the only person who's got your back ultimately 100% of the time is you. So you would be wrong not to love yourself. You would be wrong not to forgive yourself. And it's hard when it's time to grow, but it's important.
Cool. Do you want teaser or do you want full track?
Let's do the full track.
All right.
Let's do it.
You lucky ducks.
Mikado on Spotify.
Links in description.
I wanna show you something. I should've never talked. Should've never talked. Should've never talked. Shit. Should've never talked. Push them out if they're out of line. What's yours is yours. What's mine is mine. Hey girl, I know it's been hard for you in this life. Hey girl, I know that you're tired. Hey girl, I know you hurt more than you let people see. But I see you, and I feel you. Can I keep you company? I should've never talked shit about the woman who's had my back from day one. Should've made the time to tell you that you're worth it. Treat you like you're worth it, and then some. You're a goddess you create from nothing. Turn your heartache into something better. Forever my own lady. I'm alright on my own. Come here, I wanna show you something. Oh, my own. I'm alright on my own. It's not about what you do, it's about who you do it with. Threw in my back when it was about to break, about to give. Took the time and who made me resilient. By now you think I would have thicker skin, but I'm soft on the inside of my heart beats like a drum, and still I know when to say my goodbyes. Self-love takes work, and it hurts. I know it's hard when it's time to change. It's why they call them growing pains. Yeah. You deserve an apology. It's why I wrote this song to say the things I never said to you. There's people commenting about your life. Gotta get yourself right in your own time.
God damn, if I can think of one word that would sum that up, it would be legit, I think. After today's discussion.
Oof.
It's funky as hell.
It's the line about growing pains. Yay, yay.
Yeah.
Everyone comments on that.
Shivers. Yay, yay.
Give him the goose pimples, baby.
I think, was it this Friday?
This Friday, the 18th of December.
I think Melbourne is about to learn who the hottest MC and vocalist is on the scene at the moment.
You're about to find out. If you don't know, now you know.
Straight.
Neighbor.
That was legit amazing, though. Yeah, we've had it before, and every time I get
You're like,
goosebumps.
oh, get the chili willies.
Oh.
Well,
hell.
I think it's about time we wrap this bad boy up for the day.
All right, so let's take it on home. Thank you so much, Rhath. Thank you so much, Mikado, for being here.
Yep.
My name's Emkew. Hit us up on YouTube, on Spotify. Podcast. By the way, it's probably too late now, but if you want to listen to these podcasts and not have to watch us, I mean, I don't know why, but you can also hit us up on Spotify. All of our music is out on YouTube. You'll also be able to check out Mikado on Spotify now, Rhath on Spotify, Emkew on Spotify. You've also got us all on Instagram. All the links and information are below or in the show notes if you're listening on Spotify. Thank you so much. Vibe Union Podcast, episode 10. We out.
We out.